Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to do a Q&A with you guys. I have not done one in quite some time, and we have a lot of new faces over the last year, so I figure there's probably some things that you guys may not know, so let's just kind of relax. It's going to be a pretty chill video. I just want to sit here, answer some questions, and kind of just hang out with you guys. But let's see what we got. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The first one I see, and it's just so fun that I'm going to answer this one first. How many cats would you own if there was not a limit? So as far as indoor cats go, 2 is great. I love having 2. It's really, really fun. Maybe 3 inside. I don't think I'd really want more than 3 inside, but me and my husband do plan to have like barn cats, or I'd love to have like a small little cat sanctuary if we got land where I could bring like a bunch of older cats in and they could live their best lives out on my land and have like their own little area. I would love that. I love cats. I think it's kind of proven at this point. Like if I had a favorite animal, it would definitely be a cat. How old am I? I recently just turned 31. So what is your dream aesthetic for your dream homestead? And I also got a few other questions on if I had the opportunity to move to a bigger property, would I? So I'm going to kind of just tie all of this into one. So yes, I would love to move to about 5 to 10 acres. We have looked at a few properties that have been around 1 to 3. I could work off of that. That's definitely way more space than I currently have, but I would love 5. I think 5 is that sweet spot. I would like 10, maybe all of that 10 wouldn't be fully used, or maybe have like a wooded area. But ideally, I would love 5 to 10. I would love to have enough room where I could have enough like space for a garden to grow everything I'd possibly want to grow. And then I would love to have a bigger space for chickens. I would love to have ducks. I would love to have alpaca. Ducks and alpaca or sheep. I would love those. Those are like my top tier animals that I would definitely want to play around with and get if I ever had the opportunity and had more land. As far as like my dream aesthetic goes for a homestead, I definitely love a cottagey vibe, like old farmhouse. But I am obsessed with A-frames. So if I had the opportunity to buy an A-frame on 5 to 10 acres and it was in a good area, and yes, A-frame on 5 to 10 acres, that would definitely be my number one goal there if I had like a dream property. And on that dream property, have like a bunch of fruit trees, maybe like a little pond or a lake for my ducks and all that. So I think that'd be really fun. So I got this question a few times as well, which is, can you please share your food storage pantry area? So I'll put a clip over this, but honestly, it's nothing too fancy. My basement is very dated and I don't really have a full-on space for all of my food. I have onions in one spot, then I have another kind of shelf, which is some backup food, and then I have everything I canned like in like a built-in cabinet. And then I have multiple freezers in a whole other part of my basement, and then I have an extra fridge. And I like to order from Azure Standard, so I have a bunch of like bulk cheese and butter. I really want to build shelves and get everything organized in one space. It'd be a lot easier to kind of keep track of everything. I don't really like how everything currently is. That's why I really don't show it, but it works. It's free. It works. So one thing I really do need to figure out probably sooner than later though is another spot for my onions. I'm thinking I might try to bring my curing station down into the basement and lay out my onions on that, or maybe try to figure out something for my onions, just because I'm going to need that shelf because I'm doing a fodder system for the chickens and the cats, and I finally got my seed in, so I really need to get on that project pretty soon. But my food storage is kind of just everywhere, but it works as a basement. It's not like anyone's really seeing my bulk storage. Mine is now the whole internet. But yeah, I would really like to have a whole shelf system, and we do plan to, I say we plan, I have plans and my husband's going to build one pretty soon. So we'll see where that goes. It's a busy time of year. We'll see what we get to, but right now my space works just fine. What would you say the best crops are for first-time growers and preservers? Which staples would you focus on first and how to expand from those? So my best advice when it comes to growing and preserving anything is to look at what you are currently using in your kitchen on a weekly basis. So for me, I focus on a lot of tomatoes because I use a lot of tomato sauce, salsa, and also like diced tomatoes. Also, I freeze-dried a bunch of cherry tomatoes this year, and that's been great for pizza. Another thing I focus on is is garlic and onions, because those things are used pretty much every time I am cooking. I would really, again, look at your groceries, look at what you are cooking often, what do you use in your kitchen often, and see what you need to grow to make those things happen. When you see the value in growing something, you are more, you want to work harder to grow that thing because it's something that you actually use. When you have a smaller space, you really should focus on that because you see the value in it. Once you get those things in your space that you use often, then start playing around with things that you would like to try to grow and expand on your knowledge and stuff like that. Maybe add some perennials to your space that could give you more opportunity, like fruit trees. I have elderberry bushes, things like that. So I would just look at your current kitchen habits and kind of go from there. When you see, again, value in what you are using, it makes it a lot, you're more motivated to go do that garden work and make sure things work out, because when you try some of your homegrown stuff and you taste the flavor versus what you buy at the store, it's game changer, 1000%. What would you say your favorite part of gardening is? Growing, harvesting, preserving, or eating? So I think I fell in love with gardening once I tasted the flavor of the things I was growing, when things went to full maturity, when they were in full season. When I first started tasting the food coming out of my garden, that's when the addiction really set in. I'm not even kidding. So I think if I want to truthfully answer that question, it's going to be because of the eating. Who doesn't love eating? And again, the flavor is unmatched. You can't have anything better. And then when that started happening, that's when I was really just compiling cooking from scratch, because even restaurants can't compare. Would you live in another state with a longer growing zone? So when it comes to my state and my growing zone, I honestly don't mind it that much. I obviously kind of get sad when the garden goes away. Really, the gardening season here isn't like as short as you would think. It's about 3/4 of the year. And honestly, I will be starting onion seeds very end of December, first week of January again. So I truly only get about 8 to 12 weeks really off from the garden, because once we get into like February and mid-March, I'm doing a bunch of seed starting. So, or I'm amending beds, I'm doing other things in the garden. So honestly, even this time of year, like we've been having really nice weather. I really need to get out here. I need to finish just weeding a bunch of stuff. I need to mulch stuff. And this is the time of year where you can really reset and do your garden. So honestly, if I really max out my year, I truly only get about 4 to 6 weeks completely off from the garden. And I still really like that. And I like how everything kind of slows and builds and builds and builds. And I have like this crazy 3 or 4 months of just insane gardening, and then everything starts to slow down again. So I don't know. I really like the ebb and flow. If we ever were able to move to any state, we would choose Tennessee. How is the temperature blanket coming? So if you didn't see last week's video, I was super behind on the temperature blanket, but I finally caught up, and then here I am. It's like 5 or 6 days later, and I have not picked them up because I crocheted a bunch of candy canes and I was having fun with that. And that's one reason why I'm not sure if I want to do another temperature blanket next year or not, because I just want to do fun other projects outside of the blanket. The blanket actually doesn't seem like it takes up that much time, but it does. Every single row is 1 day of the year, and each row takes me around 20 minutes. I should really do the math on how many hours I'll be putting into this blanket by the end of it. Do the math, Bree, and put it across the screen. It's a big blanket, so I don't know. I really would love to do a second one because I would love to have a pair of them that were kind of mixed matched. I think that'd be super cool, and I'd also love to compare the years. I really love the temperature blanket project because it kind of just gives me a visual for how the weather was, and I can kind of put 2 and 2 together with the garden, and I really like that just because I'm a very visual person. So, but yeah, if you didn't see that video, go to last week's video and you can kind of catch up with the temperature blanket there. What's your best piece of gardening advice? So as someone that never gardened in their life and just started 6 years ago, I would definitely suggest starting small and growing into your space. So when I first started, I've been in this space for the 6 years, and I've really grown in this space. My very first year, I had 1 8x4 garden bed and a handful of planters, and honestly, I got overwhelmed that year because it was so new to me. I had no habits built. I wasn't used to going outside every day. One reason I even started gardening is because I wanted to have more I wanted to be forced to go outside every day. I was not an outside girl at that point. I was very much like city girl, and I really wanted to get back into nature. I loved being outside as a kid, and I really fell out of that habit. So even just forming the habit of going outside every day, I felt, especially during summer, hot summer, was not used to that. So I think that it plays a big role when it comes to figuring out the garden and not getting really burnt out with the garden, or maybe you feel like it wasn't your thing. If you've ever tried at first, really start small. So after that first year, I broke up my garden bed because I had them kind of stacked. I had like a 2-foot by 8x4 garden bed. So I put them into 2 garden beds, and then I had a few more planters, still got burnt out by like end of August that year. But then year 3 happened, and I started to get a little bit more of a groove. I finally felt like I was used to being outside. I was used to watering my garden. I was used to weeding my garden. At that point, I had to deal with a handful of issues, so I had a little bit more knowledge under my belt. And then from there, I just continued to double the garden until it got to the point where I could no longer expand the garden. And then I added chickens, and chickens last year were a whole nother learning curve. So what's something you want to try in the garden in 2024? Honestly, I'm not too sure if I'm going to be doing too many new things next year. I really am running out of space, and I want to hone in on just more things I use every day. I am absolutely obsessed with onions and garlic. My onions were phenomenal, and they're storing great. I think I'm probably going to have onions clear through February or March with how they're storing. Whatever doesn't store fully, because this variety is a 6+ month, so I'll be really curious to see how long it stores, because I harvested it at the beginning of July. Okay, I'm getting on a whole other tangent about onions, but I just want to kind of want to see how much I can grow of certain things. Like, obviously I've had a few rough years with tomatoes, and I really want to get closer to a year's worth of tomato sauce. The last 2 years have really kind of stunk with my tomato harvest, but the year prior to that, I planted less tomatoes and I had a way better harvest. I got way more tomato sauce. So honestly, I don't know. I'm really trying to figure that out. Over the next 4 weeks, I'm really going to be diving a lot deeper into my 2024 garden plans, because again, I'm going to be starting onions by the very end of December, beginning of January. So I really got to get my plans in action. I do already have garlic planted. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to get more into perennials. You guys ask a lot of questions about my husband, so you guys really won't see him often. You might see a cameo here and there, and typically if you see him in the background or helping me with something, everyone in the comments will be like, oh my gosh, it's the rare clip of her husband. Yes. So my husband is not a video guy. He's not a big picture guy. He doesn't really care for the camera. This is mostly my thing. He supports it 1000%. Love my husband. So it's just one of those things. You aren't really going to see him be like in videos with me. That is not our style. Honestly, I don't even really like filming around him. I get really nervous. I am definitely in my own little bubble when I film. But yeah, we've been together for quite some time at this point, and yeah, he's great. What inspired my homesteading lifestyle? Living in farm country, considering I live in Kansas, we are surrounded by commercial farms. And when you really learn about the commercial farm industry, and then you see it firsthand every single day, you really do witness how terrible it truly is. So I felt really sad about it. So I felt like I wanted to just feel like I could make a small difference in my own space. And by doing that, I learned just truly how hard it is to grow food. And I got way more appreciative. And I think that just kind of turned into this. What is your favorite and least favorite thing to grow in the garden? I think my least favorite thing to grow in the garden is cucumbers. I like cucumbers. I don't really like pickles. I say cucumbers are my least favorite thing to grow because I tend to grow them. They're just a pain. You have to really keep up on them. They grow so fast. And then out of nowhere, you're swimming in cucumber. I don't know. Cucumbers are, they're probably one of my least favorite things that I grow. As far as my favorite thing to grow, Goldie Honeybear sunflowers. They just bring me so much joy. If you could redo your garden over again, what would you do? We redid this space, is this like 3 years now? We completely tore out everything and reset the whole garden space. And if I would redo anything from the very beginning, it would be just to not place my garden bed in kind of a dumb area. When I expanded to this, I had like a garden bed here, here, here. I had kind of wide walkways, and there was no way for me to expand easily, so we had to completely move everything out. I have this whole process on a video, but yeah, we completely moved everything out, minus the in-ground space. The in-ground space was here when we reset everything else, but I really can't do anything really as far as expanding because our maple tree really shades out this area this time of year. So yeah, I don't know. We really can't redo anything else, but like I said, when we redid everything a few years back, at the very beginning, I would have just think about more of the future when I placed my garden beds and how I potentially want to expand from there. What advice do you have for aspiring homesteaders that don't have a house yet or a smaller space? So my best advice to you is do what you can. When you're in a smaller space in an apartment, you can get some indoor lights set up and grow a bunch of your own greens and herbs. Same with your balcony. If you're not able to do that, really start with learning how to cook from scratch. When you are doing any type of growing, you are pretty much essentially growing ingredients. So you really need to know how to work with raw foods, things that aren't in box form, how to cook things in different ways to make them taste different. Really experiment in the kitchen is probably my best advice when it comes to trying to do any of this and you don't have a home yet. Really get into the kitchen and start learning those skills, because the kitchen and the garden really truly go hand in hand, at least in my opinion. Ooh, I love a good kitchen question. So what is my favorite kitchen supplies for prep and preservation? I can't seem to find any of the large bowls you have, like your red ones. I think I have those red ones linked. If I do, I will put them below, but if I don't, I'll find the link and I'll put it below for you. I'm not kidding when I say this, a salad spinner. So I did not have a salad spinner until this year, and I think this would have been a game changer for years. And it's such a cheap staple to have in the house. So I think it's great because I harvest a bunch of different like tea and basil and herbs and all that jazz. So more than just lettuce. Amazing salad spinner for sure. As far as just like prep and preservation, having a large stock pot comes in handy with any type of broth making, water bath canning, any type of big like cook days where you're doing like freezer meal stuff like that. So I would say having a good stock pot, a salad spinner. I have a lot of stuff for preserving. I'm a big kitchen girl, so anything kitchen related pretty much is like a favorite of mine, just because can't go wrong with a good kitchen staple. Have I considered a beehive? Most definitely yes. I've wanted to have bees for like 4 or 5 years now. Unfortunately, we just don't want to put it in this space. We could legally have bees, but yeah, I don't know. That's like the first thing I'm getting when we expand and move is definitely going to be bees. I can't wait to have bees. My husband's aunt is a beekeeper and she lives in Pennsylvania, and it's really fun to talk to her, but yeah, she loves bees, so I can't wait to have a beehive. So just know it will be happening. I often get questions about my hair and my hair routine. So I do have a hair routine video. Nothing has really changed off that. It's driving me nuts. It is like the longest it's ever been at the moment, and I'm definitely going to be cutting off a chunk. It's a little unhealthy at the moment. My biggest secret is just not coloring it and not really doing much with it. Less is more. But yeah, my routine is really simple. If you're curious, I'll link that video for you. But honestly, I just focus on more like less is more, clean beauty. I really haven't found like a full-on skin routine. I really need to get into that now that I'm 31 and I'm noticing some more wrinkles. But I don't plan to get like Botox or anything like that. I'm just going to keep aging. We'll see how that goes. I can't color my hair. So the moment I start growing gray is going to be part of my look. How do I beat winter blues? I am the girl that puts up her Christmas decorations the beginning of November, and I do not put them away until the end of January for the most part. Yeah, they bring me that little bit of happiness during the darkest time of the year because I'm definitely a sunshine girl. Like, my mood and activity level are based on the sunshine. I definitely go off the weather. I don't think I could ever live somewhere like dreary and rainy. That is like my husband's favorite weather, and I like weather like that, but I am very lazy with weather like that. I like to feel productive, and I do not feel productive unless the sun is shining, we got some good weather going on, I can be outside. I definitely get an energy boost from that. And then I just dive into other hobbies that I'm not able to really focus on. And I also just daydream of the garden because that's garden planting time. So like I can just sit there and really like look at all the pretty pictures of like different things I might want to grow and like just daydream. You kind of just have to find those little things that make you happy during that time of year. Like I've been adding more cozy lighting throughout the house as well because again, I really like having that cozy lit vibe. I would love to have a fireplace. That is one thing, like is 1,000% something that when we move is a must. Me and my husband definitely want a fireplace. We've considered adding one to this house for years now, but we just have not pulled the trigger on that. Really just cozying up your space, diving into other hobbies. Like for me, I really love having crochet as a hobby, and I can really focus on that during this time of year. And it's a slow hobby, it's a relaxing hobby. Again, with cooking, I typically dive more deep into new recipes during this time of year. I really need to get back into bread baking. And I think that was a question on here too, was like bread recipes and stuff like that. I've gotten way out of the habit of making bread. I was really good last winter into the spring. I was making English muffins every week, and that's something I really need to do to cut down on my grocery bill. Making bread can save you a lot of money. So I have a lot of flour, and I just need to get back into that habit. I have not focused on bread in quite some time. Yeah, focus on some hobbies. We got a fashion question. So what's your favorite piece of clothing in your wardrobe that you can't live without? It's definitely a toss-up between these overalls and one of my dresses, like one of my really nice dresses. I feel like over the last few years, I've kind of honed into more of a style, and I don't know, overalls are like it. If you've not bought a pair of overalls, at first I felt so stupid wearing overalls, but I love overalls. They are so practical. Like, it's like wearing an apron without wearing an apron. You don't have to pull up your pants if you're gardening. I love overalls. I don't know if they're like my favorite piece of my wardrobe, but they're probably like the most used. Toss up between those. What do your daily/weekly routines look like? So that kind of changes throughout the year as well. Obviously, summer, my days are pretty long. So during summer, I will typically wake up around like 5:30, 6 a.m. I get out here, I do a handful of things for like 1 to 3 hours. Then at that point, if I need to do anything inside house-wise, I'll do preserving during that time, during like the heat of the day. And then once like 5, 6 o'clock turns around, I come back outside, do some things. I work a lot throughout that entire time. But then like you go into winter and like early spring, and obviously I don't have as much of a focus on the garden, so I'm able to spend my mornings just a little bit slower. I do a lot more computer work during this time of year. I get a lot more organized. Yeah, it just kind of, my life is very ebb and flow with the seasons, just because there's so much that changes throughout the seasons. And I think at first that was hard for me because I'm a very structured, routine person. I don't think initially this felt routine to me, having like so many differences between the seasons and routines through the seasons, but I really enjoy it. I think it mimics nature really well. And when you look at nature does a very similar thing. It really slows down during those winter and like early spring months, and then it just goes and goes and goes. And I really like that my life currently, in this current time of my life, I'm able to kind of feel the waves of my routine. I'm very appreciative of that, because I definitely did not live a lifestyle like this in my 20s. At one point in my 20s, I was waking up at 4 a.m. and I wasn't getting home. I was literally waking up at 4 a.m., leaving my house by 4:35, and I was not getting home until 10 p.m. That's how hard I was working and going to the gym. It was literally insanity. I don't know how I did that in my life. I was working 3 jobs It was crazy. What did/do you do with all your extra loofahs? So I have a few still from last year, and then I got such a good harvest this year. I do sew them into loofahs for gifts for Christmas time. And honestly, I plan just to use them as sponges. I don't think I'm going to grow loofah next year. Again, with the whole prioritizing space and trying to grow more of my everyday staples, I don't think I'm going to need loofah. I have an overabundance, and I can definitely probably take a year off. But I love the vines, and I love loofah so much. So yeah, I gift them. I use them for sponges. They store great. There's no problem with keeping them for a long time. So there's like no rush to use them. All right, let's find one more question and sum up this video. So let's see. Where is your awesome coupe from, or did you build it? Let's end on this one. And my husband built this. We are big mid-century fans. Back to like the A-frame, like cabin style I love mid-century. So we really wanted to have a coupe that allowed us to have a style to it when we're not living in a house that has that type of style. So our birds are living the luxury life. But honestly, this is no plans, and it took a little bit longer for us to build this coupe. I think it took him over a 2-month period because he only had the weekends, and we had no plans. He's never built anything like this before. He was winging a few of the processes, but it's great. I love this thing so much. My only regret is I wish we would have built it a little bit bigger. I did mention to him that we could cut off this in-ground space and expand and have like an extended run and take out some of the garden, because this little area over here doesn't necessarily grow well. That's like one of the most shaded areas, and we put the coupe in the area that was most shaded because that shade really does help during that peak summer when it's hot and those chickens need a break from the heat. But yeah, he did all that. He like designed the whole like paneling thing. He spent a lot of time and effort on this thing, and I absolutely love it. I get questions on the coupe all the time, and I did not really film most of the process since it was mostly his little project. And I mentioned earlier how he's not the big camera person, but there are some clips. I think I have clips, and you'll see him in that video. But yeah, it's one of those things where yeah, he built it and he didn't have any plans or anything. I wish we had like some type of plans so I could like reference it to you guys. But yeah, either way, I'm gonna end it here. I feel like this video has gotten quite long. Hopefully that answered some of your questions. Thank you guys so much for joining today. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.